All right, so if you do not have access to your forms from inside of Command, you can log into your Command account. You're going to click on your name in the top right-hand corner. Then you are going to go down to Settings. And when you go into Settings, it's going to give you all of the applications that you can, it's going to give you all of the applications that you can sync with your account. And DocuSign is here. From here and from inside of your command, it's not going to bring up DocuSign. You're not going to be able to push a DocuSign button from inside of command. The way that DocuSign is integrated with command is that you will go into your opportunities. You can only access your DocuSign documents in opportunities, and I'll show you how to do that. So if you're in your opportunities, you can go directly to your opportunities here. Or if you have a client, you can go to your client. Opportunities here, 123 Main Street. When you are working inside of command, you'll have an opportunity. Your opportunity is your transaction, okay? So your transaction is your opportunity or your file or however you want to refer to it. In this scenario, I have an opportunity set up called 123 Main Street that I've obviously used in the past. When you're inside of your opportunity and you click on it, when you go, it will bring you to this screen. And from here, you can click Documents. If you go directly into DocuSign and you don't start your DocuSign from inside of command, you won't be able to link them after the fact. So if you like them linked and you like being able to go between the two, always start it in DocuSign. If you started in DocuSign, you can then log into DocuSign separately and access it, but it doesn't work the other way around. This is how you access it. And so if you wanted to add a document, you can do that here. You can do that here. You can add documents from your computer or directly from DocuSign. And so that's how you do it that way. If you want to go to DocuSign from inside of command, you would click on Go to Transaction. When you click Go to Transaction, it's going to bring you into DocuSign. I would say because I train and all of that stuff, I access my DocuSign directly as you all saw me do here. But if I were you all, I would get in the habit of going through command. We're inside of DocuSign and I am going to show you all how you send documents to a client, for example, in DocuSign. So I already have a folder set up that is a training folder. But if you are coming from inside of command, when you create your opportunity inside of command, it's automatically going to create a room for you inside of DocuSign. If you are going directly to DocuSign, you are going to have to create a room, okay? So when you create your room is like your client file. This is your DocuSign version of that. This is your client file. So again, if you create your client opportunity in command, it's going to automatically create you a room. If you are just going straight to DocuSign, you can just create the room manually like I just did. So you all are here. So I'm going to say January 2025 Ignite. We'll say contracts class. Contracts class. I'm doing this with 1176. So yours will only have 1176. I'm the agent owner. And you can put list side, buy side, list and buy side, or refinance. Because I'm doing multiple things, I'm going to put list and buy. But you want to make sure that you're accurately entering that. Okay.
Good morning, Tori. Can you go back? Is that I'm in DocuSign, so sorry, I'm in Command. So would I go to create opportunity and then enter this information?
So inside of command, I have my client contact. Okay. So this is my contact inside of command. If you all don't have yourself inside of command as a contact, I recommend that you do that. If you don't have yourself signed up on your website, I recommend that you do that. When you do that, anything that you're wanting to send to the client, you can test it out on yourself first and in whatnot. So anyways, so when you have a transaction, okay, you're ready to work with Tori Easterling, you're going to go to the opportunities tab. My recommendation is to create an opportunity as soon as you have the opportunity. This person says they're looking to buy, they're looking to sell. I would go ahead and create the opportunity. When you create the opportunity, it puts them in your pipeline. So you won't lose them if you go ahead and create the opportunity. When you click create opportunity, you're going to click your market center. I'm going to not select a team, but because I have a team, I can assign it to myself or my team. Again, you're going to pick your opportunity type, listing, buyer, or landlord. If they are buying and selling, you are going to create two separate opportunities. This is the client, Tori. If there's a separate client, you would add them as well. When you are doing, like I said, it's going to automatically generate a name for that. When you're doing this, make sure that you name it. Make sure that you name it in a way that you'll remember it. And then make sure that you name your opportunities the same way every time. So when I'm working with a seller, my opportunity will be 123 Main Street. And then I'll put Easterling, their last name. So I can look up so later on, if I'm trying to find their transaction, I can search them by the address or I can search by the name. So make sure that you're using a consistent naming convention. So January contracts class, you can tag this, create training. I'm going to put a training tag on there. So let's say they want to buy in a year, you can put it out a year. So that's why I say as soon as the person says, hey, I think I want to buy or sell, I recommend going ahead and creating the opportunity. That way they're in the pipeline and you can't forget them. Okay, glow hour, Elijah. All right. Listing price, you can put your estimated listing price here. You can also put where you are in working with them. If they're further out, you're going to put cultivate. And if you put cultivate, it's going to give you the option to give them a title of hot, nurture, and watch. Sidebar, you can create your own opportunity phases and your stages. This is just generic what comes with your account. Okay. You can also put that you're in the appointment phase. You can put whether you're scheduling, it's scheduled, or whether you've had the appointment and the appointment was kept. And then lastly, once they are active, you can put, okay, we're staging, we're showing, or we're in negotiation. Again, you can modify those fields. You can modify those fields. It's a B. And again, you can put a time frame, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And then, of course, you're going to want to save.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I have an opportunity. I have a file for the client for a specific transaction. And when you're in your opportunity, You can come in here, you can put the property address, classification, you can put your appointment information. So we have, where are we? We have an appointment scheduled for today. What's today? The 25th. We scheduled this appointment when we started on the 15th. You all signed your agreement. You can put the price, the commission rate, the target go live date, the staging date, photography date, listing date, escrow date, home inspection date, all the things, okay? You can put your, we talked about that. You can enter other description notes here. You can say taught January 25th to Ignite for Keller Williams, West Atlanta. So that's letting me know some additional information about the transaction. You can also enter vendors. You can put the attorney, the inspection company, anyone that you're working with in the transaction, you can add them here. So everything that you need, you can put into your opportunity. As it pertains to your contracts, you can go to documents. And you can drop your documents here. So that's the listing agreement. The Market Center already has your agreements, the documents that are required. They already have them pre-formulated or pre-uploaded into your command account. So your listing agreement, your authorization to show, if it says conditional, that means if the seller is a client. If the document is required, you have to have that document, okay? And then we can go over here to start a transaction. And that is how you get directly, that's not directly, but that is how you get to DocuSign from inside of Command. And like I said, it's going to go ahead and create that file for you. So you don't have to create the room. It's going to create it for you. And from here, you can start to add documents, okay? So today we're going to be working with a few documents and I'm going to go ahead and add them here. If you did not get your documents added and you are a realtor, you're going to go to YouTube and go NRDS and DocuSign. And this Scott Leroy marketing one here is pretty decent. And so if you haven't done that, I'll put this link in the chat. Okay. Any questions so far? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
When good morning. When you hit browse, I'm in Command right now. You hit browse and it pulled up your engagement agreement. Where was that saved at? So when I hit browse on mine, obviously it pulls up my drives on my computer, which I don't have those agreements saved there on my own drives. So where would I pull that from in Command like you did?
I'm going to show you. So
Okay.
I was able to pull it because it's already saved on my computer.
Okay.
But I'll show you how to do that. So when you're here inside of Command, it says attach files from DocuSign. So if you already have the files in DocuSign in your file for this particular opportunity, you'll be able to attach it. But we haven't added any documents, so it won't allow me to attach it from DocuSign. But if I click my computer, okay, and I click browse, it's going to take me to my computer. And these documents I already have saved on my computer, and I'm going to get those to you today, but I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we're inside of our file or our room inside of DocuSign that we got to directly from Command. And when you click the Documents tab, it's going to bring you to this page. Now, before you go to your Documents tab, there is a Details tab, and you're going to want to edit your details before you start adding your documents. If you add your details, then it is going to automatically populate this information in your form when you are creating them. If you skip this step, you're going to have to manually enter everything into your contracts. Okay. So here, now, we'll talk about putting your client's contact information here. I would not put my client's address, phone number, or email in here. And I'll tell you why when we get there, or I'll tell you why now. It's going to automatically populate in every form. When I'm sending forms to, if I'm representing the seller and I'm sending documents to the buy side, I don't want them having my client's contact information. So if you enter it here, just remember to delete it on the form when you are working with those forms that are going to be going to the other side. And that's just my preference. I don't want anyone, any agent or client going around me and calling my client. I don't want my clients being added to anyone's mailing list or anything like that. So I want to protect my clients' information. Okay. So this is the details tab. You may not know everything on here initially, but you want to make sure that you're entering the details if you want the information to auto-populate. Also, people, you want to make sure that you have added that you've added all of the appropriate people. So I'm going to invite my husband at Gmail. I'm going to add that information, and then whoever you add will show up here. And as you are working in your transaction, all of your people will be here. If you don't add the parties to the transaction here, again, you're going to have to manually add them, which I don't enjoy doing. Okay. Questions? All right.
Tori, sorry, Miss Me again. I switched from my phone to my computer, and I don't know what's going on with my chat, but for some reason I don't see anything in my chat. Would you mind dropping that again? And I don't
The
know if I have a
documents?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't mind at all. So now we're going to start adding documents. And when you click add, it's going to ask you, do you want to add this from your computer, from DocuSign, from Box, Dropbox, Google Drive? You can integrate all of these with your account. But if you want to be using your GAR contract forms, they're going to be DocuSign forms. Now, that step where I told you to do your NRDS number with your NRDS number with DocuSign, if you don't do that, when you click on your DocuSign forms, you're not going to have your GAR, Georgia Association of Realtor forms. Okay? You have to do that or they will not be here. You may have the West Atlanta forms, but you won't have any GAR forms, okay? So on this page, you have packets up here. So the office has put together brochures, they've put together buyer documents, seller documents, referral documents. So if you just want to, if you know you're working with a buyer and you don't want to look through all of the documents, you can come here. But if you want to see every single document available to you, you would click your GAR, Georgia Association of Realtor forms, over here on the left. You won't have as many fields as I have because I'm in multiple states and multiple MLS services and all that stuff. So yours will just show West Atlanta, but if you click GAR, it's going to show you all of the possibilities, okay? I recommend that you look through these just to see what types of documents there are. We were on the productivity mastermind yesterday at West Atlanta, and someone said, well, how do you add, if there are more than 2 people in a transaction, how do you add signers? So I'm like, put it in a special stipulation. And what's his name? Merrill was like, no, there's a document for that. So if you want to see if there's a document for something, you can search and it says here, additional signature page. So that document already exists. So make sure before you type up a special stipulation or anything like that, that it doesn't already exist. Also, speaking of special stipulations, we are not attorneys, so we need to be careful when we're typing special stipulations because we don't want to mess anything up, okay? So if you want to get guidance on typing special stipulations, the Georgia Association of Realtors has already given us a special stipulation form, and they've given us an index of special stipulations that are already created. So you don't have to create or come up with special stipulations on your own. They've already drafted some of the most common special stipulations, okay? So I would print these special stipulations out. As a new agent, I would do that just so that I have them or save them on my computer. As you can see here, they've typed them out. So I would save this document. I would save this document on my computer and make sure that it doesn't already exist before you type the special stipulation. I am first going to go to KW 1176. There are some documents that we have to use on every single transaction. If you're with another office, it'll say whatever your office is, okay? So click on that. And for every single transaction that you do, you have to have a KW wire fraud prevention notice. You have to have an affiliate business disclosure form. And I don't know why they have two, but I'll put that one there. And then this PAC request form, I recommend that everyone has that document as well, because you want to be able to get your closing check at the table. So PAC stands for pay at close. So from real estate school, if you are a new agent, it says all the checks are written to the broker. Well, Keller Williams has set up a system such that, and other companies have this as well, not everyone, but they have it such that if you have all of your paperwork and everything's compliant, you can submit a pay at close request so that your check can be written to you or your company at the closing table, and you can go straight to the bank, okay? All right, so I'm gonna add those documents. Once you select what you want, you can add those documents. And then as you can see, they will automatically populate inside of your room. So these are your KW documents. I'm going to go back in. I do believe that you don't have to go in and out. I think that as long as you check it, it saves it, but I go back in. So I'm working with a listing, and I'll show you both ways. So I'm going to click on the Georgia Association of Realtor forms. And if I don't know, some people remember documents by their number. So if you see down here, this addendum to backup agreement contingency exhibit, it says F605. Some people are like number experts. And then there are people like me, I use the document name. It's fine either way. Just like when you're driving, you have people, my husband in Atlanta, he'll be like, exit 29. And I'm like, where the hell is that? I don't know the exit numbers. I know the exit names. I think exit 29 might be perimeter. Is it perimeter, Kimberly? I don't know. But I don't use exit numbers. I use the names. So whichever you choose, it's fine. But just do keep in mind that it's a thing. Some people use the numbers and some people use the name. So
I'm a name person too, Tori.
yeah, I don't know, like exit 15. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Okay. So I'm a names person. So if I choose Georgia Association of Realtors documents, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type exclusive. It's going to bring up every document that has exclusive in the name. I'm looking for an exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement or form F101. So I'm going to click that. If you click multiple documents, you can upload multiple documents. Once I have the document that I need, I'm going to add it. And then again, DocuSign is going to bring my document over here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish adding the rest of the documents that we're going to be working with today. So I'm going to go inside up here inside of listing documents. I'm just showing you the different ways that you can do it. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do community association disclosure. I'm going to get the lead-based paint exhibit. I'm going to get the seller's property disclosure statement. And then let's try this. I'm going to go over to buy documents and we'll see if it works. I want to bring over the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. I want to bring over the FHA contingency agreement. I want to bring over the unilateral. I want to bring over the termination, the purchase and sale agreement, unilateral termination, VA, USDA, no financing. They've got wire fraud already in here. I want the conventional loan exhibit. We're not going to go through every single one of these forms. I'll tell you what they are. All right. So add selected. So it brought everything in, including the document that I had added previously. So when you're working from this page, you can select documents and it'll show you your document count here, and you don't have to go in and out like I've been doing. Okay. All right, so we've got all the documents that we're going to be using for the transaction. Let's say you do this and then a need for a different document comes up later on in the process. It's fine. You can add them at a later date. Now, when you are in the Documents tab inside of DocuSign, if you do not click on the document and enter information into the document, then I'll show you all what I mean. Then it's not going, you're going to have to automatically enter it at another time. So I'll show you all what I mean, but I just remembered that I want to add a different document. I always add a document called the reminder of important dates in the purchase and sale agreement. Everyone doesn't use that form. I like to use it, okay? So we are going to start with the exclusive seller broker engagement agreement today. Does anyone have any questions before we get to before we start here?
Yes, Tori, I felt like I missed a step, so now I'm just lost. I was in Command at first, and now I'm in DocuSign, but my screen does not look like yours. So I'm hoping that you can just redirect me so I can get back on track.
Here,
Yes, so I don't see like the dashboard, like I'm logged in. Um,
you went directly to DocuSign, or are you here?
yes, yes, I went directly to DocuSign.
And that's okay. So your screen probably looks like the one that I'm about to pull up now. It looks like this.
That is correct. So it says like home agreements, templates, and reports.
Okay, got it. No worries. So you're
Okay.
here. In order to get to where we are, you're going to go to the top right-hand corner and click on your initials.
Okay.
And when you click on your initials, you're going to go to switch to rooms.
Okay. Let me
And that's how you get to the dashboard.
switch to rooms. All right, perfect. So I'm now there. I think I have to authorize.
Your DocuSign for command.
Yes. So, okay. So it redirected the page back to command.
You can X out of that authorize. If you've already clicked authorize, you could X out of it. I don't know how
Okay.
to stop that from popping up,
Right.
but
Okay.
you should be able to just X out of it and stay inside of DocuSign, right?
Perfect. Yes, I was able to do that.
Okay,
So
good.
now my screen looks similar to yours.
Okay. All right, good. So from here, of course, you go into your room or your file, and we have added our details, we've added our people, and we have added our documents that we're going to be using in our transaction. Okay. So we're going to start today with our exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. If you do not, within the documents part of DocuSign, if you do not do this step and you want to send the document to the customer, when you get to the way to send it to them for them to sign, you're going to have to, again, enter the information manually there. So you could enter it at the end or you could enter it here. I recommend that you enter it here. When you enter it here, it will automatically populate certain information later on in your transaction, okay?
Okay.
Seller brokerage engagement agreement, AKA the listing agreement. So if someone says listing agreement and you go into DocuSign and you try to find listing agreement, you won't find it. It is the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement, or it is form number F101. Okay. Now, this is the form that you will more than likely be working with, but it's not a definite. You may be working with a non-exclusive seller agreement. You may be working, it doesn't matter. This is the most common form that you'll be working with. And so that's the one that we are going to go over today. So my favorite thing about GAR contracts is that it looks like it is a 10-page document. It's like, oh my gosh, it is a 10-page contract. It's really not a 10-page contract, you guys and gals and other. It is a 2.5 page contract, okay? So in all of your GAR forms, you'll have your contract where you can put in your fields. Okay, but once you get to B, it says further explanations to corresponding paragraphs in section A. So all of the other pages are just explanations of the fields in the contract. So your homework this weekend is to read your contracts. So for example, number 1 says exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. And then when you go down here to B, it says exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. So it tells you what that field is about. Seller has the full authority to enter into this agreement for the listing of the seller's property for sale. This agreement may not be amended except by written agreement of the seller and broker, okay? So it's just explaining what's in the subsequent paragraphs, in the preceding paragraphs or pages, okay? So that's awesome. Y'all think that's awesome? I just love that. That's my favorite part of contracts. It's like you don't have to explain it. We shouldn't be explaining and interpreting contracts for clients anyways. But when you give your client the contract, you're going to tell them the same thing. You're going to say, hey, I know this seems overwhelming, but the contract's not actually that long. You got explanations. If you have questions about anything on the contract, there's an explanation on those subsequent pages that explain the field. So read the contract, so read the contract and have those explanations there, okay? So in order to create your exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement, you are going to start with the address. So we're working with a property located at 123 Main Street. That property is in Atlanta, Georgia, in Fulton County, not Fulton, but Fulton County. It is in Southwest Atlanta. And the tax ID is 14F, blah, 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 blah. You get this from the tax records, okay? So you get this from the tax records. And then B says legal description. If you are a new agent, this is where all that meets and bounds and recorded plat and all that stuff. That's where this is. So you're going to decide, am I going to attach it as an exhibit? If you are attaching it as an exhibit, you can get that from a closing attorney. So you can reach out to the closing attorney and you can say, hey, can you send me a copy of the legal description? Or when you go on your listing appointment, you can ask the seller for a copy of their deed, and the deed will have the legal description on there. Second. All right. Number two, you can, and you're only selecting one of these. Number two is using the deed book and page number. You can do that. That'll actually be on the legal description. You can also enter it manually by entering the land lot, the district, the block, the unit, all that jazz. You can do that. I don't recommend using this field just because it just creates an opportunity for user error. If you enter data wrong, then it can mess you up, okay? And then lastly, if it's a condo, you can use this condo manual entry. And again, I don't recommend doing that because there's an opportunity for user error in data entry. My favorite one to use is attaching it as an exhibit. If you attach it as an exhibit and it's the copy of the deed, it's impossible to get that incorrect unless someone at the attorney's office or the county made an error, but that really doesn't happen, okay? Any questions about number one on the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement? All right. Number two. Number two, you're going to come down to the list price and the listing period. It says here the price at which the property will be listed. I said in 2025, my average price point is $600,000. That's my goal for 2025. Commencement date. It says this agreement shall commence and be effective upon it being signed by seller and broker and a signed copy delivered to both parties. We're going to have a commencement date of today. 01/25. So we're at the listing appointment and we're going to sign it today. You want to be preparing this before your listing appointment. You don't want to be at the listing appointment putting in certain things. Certain things like the price, you won't know before you get there, okay? So you can maybe blank before appointment. Okay. Am I able to? All right, so that may be blank before the appointment. That's going to be the price. The commencement date is usually the appointment date. And then the ending date of the agreement. It says this shall be the last full date of the agreement. And after which it shall terminate and no longer be in effect unless the parties agree in writing to extend it. So this is your listing termination date or expiration date. There is no standard time frame, but I would say if you're working with a seller, some sellers will say, oh, I will give you a 30-day listing. Well, I'm not taking a 30-day listing because I'm going to pay for a photographer. I may be paying for a staging consultation. I'm going to be investing time and money in 30 days, especially if the average days on market is longer than 30 days. That's not enough time for me to market the property. So I don't do 30-day agreements. At a minimum, me personally, in my business, I do a minimum of 90 days. If it is a unique property type like luxury, land, or short sale, if it's anything other than a traditional listing that I know is going to sell quickly, I'm going to do a 1 year, agreement. Okay. So that's going to be your expiration date. And then you're going to go down here to number 3. Any questions about your listing price and listing period before we go on to marketing in number 3? All right. Marketing. It's asking you which multiple listing services you're members of and where the property is going to be listed. I am a member of FMLS and Georgia MLS. Okay, if your office is only a member of one, then put that one. If your office is a member of both, put both. You can also write it out as first multiple listing service, and you could write out Georgia. I haven't had any issues with how I entered this ever, so don't put too much emphasis on how to spell it out, okay? So there's that. You're going to put the multiple listing service that you're going to be entering the listing into. Under B, it says marketing commencement date. This shall be the date when the property is first marketed to the public. Seller shall have the right upon notice to broker to move this date up or back by no more than fill in the blank number of days. Now I'm going to go down to number 3 in the explanations. I recommend that you, where's the commencement date? What number were we on? We're on marketing. We're on 3B. So I'm going to go down to 3B. So it says any photography and marketing materials paid for or created by the broker shall be the property of the broker. So that's explaining that. This is talking about brochures and flyers, liability for misinformation, images, the multiple listing service, consent of seller to be called, and lock boxes. It doesn't say anything here about the commencement date. That's what I was looking for. I would assume that it would have that, but basically your commencement date is your go live date. So what date are we going live? Okay. If you are not live and if it's not marketed to the public, you technically can't be marketing it. Okay. You can only market it after the go live date. There are some things as it pertains to coming soon, and we'll do that in another class. But this is the date that you're going to go live, and you can explain it to the customer as such. Here, you're saying, okay, the date may move by no more than X number of days. It doesn't matter what that number of days is. For me personally, I use 7 days. So we can be off by a week. And if we're going to be off by more than a week, then we'll have to come back to the drawing board. So in the case where you have clients that say, oh, I want to list, but I'm not ready yet, this section pretty much solves that, okay? You don't want to not get a listing agreement signed because the seller isn't ready to put it on the market and they got to clean and they got to do all this. So this field just got added maybe in the last 5 years, this field was added because it used to say when you sign a listing agreement, it had to go into FMLS almost immediately. Well, sellers sometimes need to do stuff. They need to clean, they need to declutter, all the things that they tell you all the things that you tell them they need to do, they need time to do that. So that is why this is in here. So if your client says, we're not quite ready yet, go ahead and try to get the listing agreement signed and put a date in here and let them know that this is flexible. Does that make sense? All right, good. Okay, compensation. Huge paragraph now with all the NAR stuff going on. We won't have a compensation class here. All you need to know is what we've been talking about. It has never been the case with if you've been licensed for 1 day or 1 century, you know that commission has always been negotiable. So that's the compensation paragraph. Spend a lot of time there, ask questions there. There are lots of classes coming up and that we've had since we have these NAR lawsuits going on. There is no standard commission. Seller is not obligated by your broker fee. Okay. Protected period. Protected period, if you remember, if you are a new agent, everyone, I don't have my notes in front of me. Can everyone drop in the chat how long you've been licensed so I can read the room and know what I need to say and not say? Drop how long you've been in the business, how long you've been licensed in the chat because I don't have my thing here. Been a month, 2.5 years. Okay, cool. Everybody, still waiting on some. All right, so your protected period, that is going to be, it says the length, I'm not going to read that. Your protected period is the period after your listing expires. It's the period or the buffer period that says, hey, if someone that I was engaged with as your listing agent, where they came and viewed the property, I procured their interest in the property, I marketed the property with them, we were working with them before the contract expired. If they come back around and choose to purchase your property after the contract expires, I'm still due a commission. That's what the protected period is. There is no set standard. I use 90 days. Okay. So example, 90 days. So my contracts say, hey, if within 3 months after closing, one of the buyers that I brought to your property, if they choose to circle, spin the block and come back and purchase your property, I'm still going to be expecting my compensation. Okay. Agency and brokerage. This says what types of agency does your broker not offer? A lot of agencies don't offer dual agency, even though it's legal in Georgia. So check with your specific office to see if dual agency is available. I don't do sub-agency. That's some old school stuff. So whatever it is your broker does not offer, you're going to enter that here. Here it says, if the broker offers dual agency, does your seller consent or not to you engaging in dual agency? This means if you are the listing agent, if an unrepresented buyer comes along, or if you have a buyer, do they consent to you representing that buyer as a dual agent? Okay. So make sure that you're having that conversation with your sellers about dual agency. Lead-based paint, if the home was built prior to 1978, you're going to make sure that you indicate whether that's the case or not. And if it was built prior to 1978, you're going to attach the lead-based paint exhibit, and you're going to note that exhibit letter here. Some people don't get the lead-based paint exhibit until after there's a contract submitted. You should be getting this, you're required to get the lead-based paint exhibit at the time of listing if the home was built prior to 1978. Number 8, a lot of agents skip this part. Do not, especially in this economic and political climate, do not skip number 8. This is where you're having the conversation with the seller about whether or not they have any extenuating or special circumstances that would impact your listing. So, have you filed for bankruptcy protection? Are you currently in a divorce? If they're currently in a divorce, full stop, hard stop, you need to stop there and make sure that you get into communication with them and or their attorneys to find out if they are even able to sell the property while they're engaged in the divorce, okay? Because usually we're not attorneys and it's not our job to advise them on whether or not they can or can't, but usually you can't convey, in a lot of cases, you can't convey or sell a property while you're in the middle of a divorce unless the court approves of it. So make sure that you're having a serious conversation if they're in a divorce. Also, short sale, you want to ask them, hey, are your mortgage payments up to date? Ask this question in several different ways. It's kind of like when you're dating and you have to ask some questions in several different ways because people like to teeter-totter around the language. You want to make sure, are your payments late? Are you up to date? Are you defaulted? Are you in foreclosure? Do you think you'll need a short sale? Do you think you can't? I had a listing last year and I asked these questions, and then when the listing didn't sell after 3 hours on the market, the client, I'm exaggerating. Look, Kimberly's face is like, what? I'm exaggerating, but when it didn't sell like soup, like it was like an unreasonable amount of time, like maybe a week or something like that. The seller calls like bawling, like, I can't pay the mortgage next month. You should have told me that at the listing appointment. That's a totally different conversation if you don't have your mortgage payment next month. Maybe we should have listed it at a different price, perhaps. So you want to spend some time here and just ask, all the questions that you need to ask here. You also, number 4 here, it says seller not on title. You need to make sure that you are working with everyone who's on title. You need to make sure that anyone that's on the tax record is also present at the listing appointment and can also sign the contract. So this is where you're having the conversation about that. And then number 9 says, does the seller authorize you or not to negotiate on their behalf? Some investors do their own negotiations. They just want you to do their contracts. They want you to fill in the forms for them. They don't want you negotiating, okay? So that is where you would answer that question. And again, the cool part about contracts is all of this stuff is just more detailed explanations on everything that we just went over. Your homework is to read this, okay, for your exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. Now, when you get down to, there are some fields about what happens if the seller defaults. So make sure that you're reading all of this. And then number 10 has brochures. So the Georgia Association of Realtors provides us with informational brochures that you can give to your seller. I love these for agents and new agents, especially because you can use these to learn information about molds, about lead-based paint, about agency, about radon. No one talks enough about radon. Who knows anything about radon? Raise your real or virtual hand. Okay, Diane, of course. Anyone else know anything about radon? So print or save yourself a radon packet and read it. Homes in Georgia. First of all homes in Georgia have mold. So you want to read that. Mold is a normal occurring thing in homes. So you want to read that and make sure that you give this to your clients. Your radon pamphlet. If you're selling homes in Georgia or homes with crawl spaces or basements, you want to be having this conversation with all your clients, but especially clients that are looking at homes with basements and crawl spaces. Radon is a gas. We're not expected to be experts on this, but it is a gas that can seep through the foundation of your home into your basements, your crawl spaces, and into your living areas. And it has been known to cause cancer, certain types of cancers. So you want to make sure that you're getting into that. This is a pamphlet brochure here, Protect Yourself When Selling Real Property. Lung cancer, says Natasha. It causes lung cancer, okay? What buyers and sellers should know about short sales and distressed properties. If you are interested in working with distressed property, short sales, and REOs, real estate owned properties or foreclosures, definitely read that. And then here it says what to know about buying agricultural land and land near military bases, installations, and airports. That's one that's relatively new. Actually, it's 2025 new, if I'm not mistaken. Pull this document here and read it. I have to read it. But any documents that you're giving to your client, you're going to want to select it here. Your other exhibits, was there?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just wanted to confirm. So are we only sending them what pertains to them, or should we be sending all of these brochures?
That's up to you. Honestly, I don't send all of them. For example, if it's a home that was not built before 1978, I'm not sending the lead-based paint exhibit. I do send the mold exhibit to my buyers, but it just depends on, it's your preference. But the one that I would send every single time is Protect Yourself When Selling Real Property. And now in 2025, I'm going to be sending out this short sale and distressed property. I'm sending that out this year in 2025 because I suspect that we're going to start to see some things happening in the realm of unemployment, the economy. We're in an interesting time, so people may be losing their jobs. A lot of people lost their job this week, so they may be in a position where they are no longer able to make their mortgage payments and may, where they were previously a traditional seller, they may, you may see an uptick in distressed sellers. So I'm going to be doing that one this year, but it's up to you, Chanel.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they're not required. You don't have to send any if you don't want to. But why would, why wouldn't you? I think it's great. And I think that it would set you apart. Not all agents send them. So it shows that you care about your client, and I would definitely send it. Legal description, if you're attaching it as an exhibit, which I recommend, you're going to check that. Lead-based paint, again, 1978 or before, and any other exhibits that you are attaching, you can include that there. Special stipulations, we talked about that. There are, we're going to check the special stips index first to make sure the stip doesn't already exist. And then if you are composing your own special stipulations, You're going to make sure that you're covering the who, the what, the when, the why, and the how, okay? And under who, you're going to also be covering the by whom, okay? Is it by whom or by who? Okay, so if you're talking about, I'll give you an example. I don't know, I didn't share this with you all yet, but I have an example of a transaction where there was a pool table that was supposed to remain with the listing. The buyer could have the pool table, and this was in a contract, not a listing agreement. But the special stipulation was like the pool table comes with the house. First of all, the pool table is personal or real property. Personal.
Yeah.
So if they were going to sell it, it would be better to put that on a bill of sale. But in this case, the seller said that they were leaving the pool table and that the buyer could have it. At some point during the transaction, the seller decided that they wanted to take their pool table or sell it or something, and they changed their mind. So the seller removed the nice pool table out of the home and put in a $99 Walmart pool table. So when the buyer did their final walkthrough, imagine their level of piss offness. They were upset. But what did the special stipulation say? The house comes with the pool table. It didn't say what pool table, what kind of pool table, what brand of pool table. It didn't say anything. So when you're typing special stipulations or when you're typing anything in a contract, we're not attorneys, but you want to say the seller agrees the seller agrees to leave the Jensen brand pool table that's located in the basement. You can even who, what, when, where. I forgot where. Okay. So think about if you're talking about repairs, you're like the door. What door? Which door are you talking about? Make sure that you're putting where this item is. You can put why if there's a reason to remedy item, blah, blah, blah in the home inspection. How by a contractor, put as much information as possible in that special stip if you insist on writing it yourself. If there are additional pages, you're going to want to click that box there. And then that's going to bring you to our contracts page. This is your listing agreement. It's almost break time. We're going to go at like as soon as we finish this form. You want to make sure that all of your information is here. Your office information. You want to make sure that they have a way to contact you. Oh, sorry. Look, I'm thinking about the agent. I put myself in here as the seller. So you're going to say, Mr. Seller. We're going to put the address of the property, 123 Main Street, yada, yada, yada. If there are two sellers, you're going to put that there. And then you're going to put your broker information. You're going to put your license number. So you'll put Keller Williams, West Atlanta. You're going to put your name. You're going to put your phone number, your license number, the address, your Realtors Association. I was just thinking about something as it pertains to me. You're going to put in your office code. So if you're West Atlanta, KWWA01, the broker's license number, this information you're going to be able to find in your onboarding paperwork. I recommend that you save this firm license number, office code, address. You save all this information in a notepad in your phone. And then once you're done, of course, you are going to save and close. Form is telling me that I can't put this here. All right. So save and close. Now you have your listing agreement saved, okay? Questions on the listing agreement? And then we're going to take a break. All right, so we left off with the exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement. We did edits to that document inside of DocuSign from inside of the Documents tab. I did mention that if you do not fill in your documents on DocuSign, that on this step, you could do it at a later time, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm going to show you how to do that as I put together your training packet with all of these documents to send to you. So I'm going to send these documents to you like you would be sending them to a client for signatures. So in order to do that in DocuSign, how you do that is by creating an envelope. So if you want your client to be able to sign, if you're familiar with DocuSign and you use this on your other job, great. But I'm showing those of you who do not how to do this. So you're going to create that by clicking on envelope. And I'm going to create a new envelope. And with the envelopes, if you're working with a client, you're going to create this. And remember that we already entered people into our transactions. So when you get here, when you do your recipients, it should have people here. We only had the staff members on mine. I don't think I added a person, or maybe I did. But we're going to send that to me. And this is going to be the 2025 January contracts training. All right. And so when you're working with your client, there's some information that defaults here. I recommend that you use some form of AI or just type it yourself, but have some type of a message that's already generated. I would recommend that you create one for the buyer and one for the seller. But I'm not going to put anything there. So once you know who this document, who these documents are going to, you're going to go ahead and go up here to where it's going to be asking you to upload your documents. We're not uploading documents. I'm actually wanting to add them from DocuSign. So if you click upload, it's going to take you to your, I see your question, Elijah. When you click upload, it's going to take you to your browser, your file browser on your computer. And when you click the drop down, you get to choose to add room documents. So you've already put all the information in there. It's going to bring up the room documents. Okay. So I think that I'm going to add all of these. Is there no add all button? I'm going to add all of these documents, even though we're not going to go into each and every one of them. There's a question in the chat, and that was not Elijah, that was Wanda. It says, Tori, when you are signing, should the client sign first or the agent sign first? When you sign, doesn't matter. You can sign it first. With the listing agreement specifically, I normally don't know the price before the listing appointment. So because I don't know the price, if I sign it and then I have to change the price, I'm going to have to sign it again. So it doesn't make sense to sign it first. But there are some documents where it actually doesn't matter. What's most important with signatures is that once everyone signs, that they get a copy of it. The cool thing about DocuSign is that it's going to send everyone a copy of it. If you're using another service, or if you are, I keep printed contracts in my car just in case the opportunity to write a contract happens on the fly. I have had to do it where I've had to go to Starbucks and handwrite a contract. If I'm going to be doing that, then I want to make sure that I'm sending everyone who signed their own copy. So I've added these documents to the file. Because these documents are coming from DocuSign, there are fields that are automatically populated. And because I didn't enter these people into the contract, DocuSign is telling me that I have to enter it here manually. So that is what I was speaking of. For clarity, everyone can still see my screen. Okay, good. So before you send these documents, you don't want to send them to the client out of order. So you want to make sure this is the place when you're creating the envelope. This is where you can put them in order that makes sense. You don't want to send this to the client in the order that it's given to us in the documents tab. So we are working with a seller. So I'm going to start with my seller exclusive listing agreement there. If I'm going on a listing appointment, I'm also going to need my seller's property disclosure statement. You can be jotting this down on the contracts that you need when you're working with the seller. So I'm going to get my seller exclusive agreement, my seller's property disclosure statement. I'm also going to need a community association disclosure agreement. Disclosure if I am working with a seller that has a home located in an HOA community. I'm also going to need a lead-based paint exhibit if the home was built before 1978. And this document, I'll wait on that one. Every single client gets the affiliate business disclosure document, whether they are a seller or a buyer. And every client gets the wire fraud document. Any questions on documents? How do you know which documents? There's no answer to that question, but don't you all, if you're new and you've never done a contract, you want to know how do I do that, right? So you're going to go to trainings and you're going to talk to me. You're going to ask questions about what documents you need prior to going on your listing appointment. But generally speaking, you're going to need your listing agreement and the disclosure documents, the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. I like to print those out because the seller has 3 days within which they sign, within the day that they sign the listing agreement, they have 3 days to complete the disclosure statements. So I like to leave those with them. Also, I leave them with them because documents that have check boxes, for some reason on mobile devices, they're a little bit hard to navigate, and a lot of clients access the documents they sign on their mobile device. Okay. So that's it for the seller. I'm going to go ahead and get my buyer documents loaded as well. So I'm going to put my exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. When I'm working with my buyer and my seller, there may be some compensation documents that I include. But right now we're just going to do the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. With that buyer brokerage agreement, I always, in my buyer packet, I always include a purchase and sale agreement. This is the offer. So in my buyer's consultation, I tell them, go ahead and read through the purchase and sale agreement now, because when it's time to make an offer, we may need to do so in a hurry and we may not have time for you to consult with your Lord and Savior. Or, people say, I got to think about it, sleep on it. Go ahead and read it now so that you don't have to do that when it's time to make an offer, especially in the COVID market where you've got clients and sellers who are receiving 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 offers. We don't have time for you to sleep on it or read it or whatever. So go ahead and read it now after our consultation and call me and we can set up an appointment to answer any other questions you have about the contracts, but go ahead and read it now. So that's what I tell my clients. I kind of do it in a joking way when I say your Lord and Savior is not. There's no shade or anything like that. I don't know their religion, but I'm just saying you're not going to have time to read it later, possibly. So go ahead and read it now. So the buyer brokerage agreement, the purchase and sale agreement. With the purchase and sale agreement, I'm going to, and this doesn't go in the packet, but what you all are going to be doing when you're writing your offer, chances are you're going to be using some type of financing. So I'm putting my most common types of loan documents in here for you all. And then if they're not getting any financing, there's a document for that. There's also an all cash exhibit. So if someone's paying cash, there's a document for that. And then here, there's a document that's called the reminder of important dates and deadlines. This is a document that some people don't really know exists, but it does. And I like to use it. So I'll show you all that one as well. No financing. I think that's pretty much it on the buyer side in terms of what you need to write an offer or to get a buyer agreement signed. And then I've got some other documents here. All right, so I think I have these in order. Once you have these in order, I'm going to delete these fields because I don't need them. And I'm only doing this because it's just training, so I don't need all of these fields. But generally, you will have entered all of the parties to the contract, and that this will automatically populate for them, okay? Okay, and so, so make sure that they're in order. Once you have them in order, remember we're in the envelopes tab. You're gonna click the next button. Oh, I didn't enter a name. Once you have that entered, you're gonna click the next button. It's acting glitchy. So you have all of your signers entered. It's going to bring you to the signature page. Oh, no. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's going to bring you to the signature page. Switching to my phone. Okay, got it. So it's going to switch you to the signature page. As you saw over here on the left, it's got all of your documents. If you want to navigate through the different documents, it has them over here on the left-hand side. I mean, the right-hand side. Have I been saying switching the left and the right? It's over here on the right-hand side. So if you need to switch to a specific document, you can do that. So as you all see, the information that we entered on the other contract is here. If you did not enter this information, then you do have the option to enter it here manually. If you enter it here manually, it won't all the information won't automatically populate on other documents. When you go on a listing appointment, my recommendation is that you print this document out. And this is the document where the seller is going to indicate whether or not they have knowledge of any material defects. They're going to indicate the age of the roof, the age of the HVAC system. And then the most important page, one of the most important pages to me, is always going to be this page here. So this is the page where I know in real estate school, they talk about personal property, what runs with the land and appurtenance and all the stuff and fixtures and traffic. Okay, this document here, this page in this property disclosure, regardless of whether something is deemed personal property or real property, if it's selected here, it says items remaining with the property. You want to advise your seller to be very clear on what's staying with the property. And there's some spaces for other. And then there's spaces for them to clarify anything in terms of items. And then there's a spot for the seller to disclose anything needing repairs. The seller is also required to disclose if they say, for example, are there any underground tanks or toxic or hazardous substances such as asbestos? If they mark yes, they do have to include an explanation. If they mark yes to has the home flooded, the explanation needs to include what happened and how they remedied the issue, okay? Another thing I want you all to take a look at, a lot of agents never really even look at this disclosure statement until right before closing. You don't want to do that. We need to start looking at this and ask clarifying questions before closing. So I'm looking for, there's a field that talks about insurance and whether or not insurance claims have been filed. You want to make sure that you are clear on insurance, litigation, and anything like that, because we are currently in a homeowner's insurance crisis in Florida for sure, but it's actually trickling over to other areas because the weather patterns are changing and we've got fires and Helene's and all this stuff. So make sure, like now more than ever, that you're paying attention to this. I learned about a case where with Hurricane Helene, someone's claim was denied because a previous owner had filed a claim and received the money and did not do the repairs. And the insurance company paid for the repairs. And when the new owner applied for homeowners insurance, the new owner said that they had not, I think that they said that either they had not filed any claims or whatever they answered, the insurance company said that they didn't disclose that either there wasn't a previous claim or they didn't disclose that money had already been paid for these repairs. So their claim did not get paid, even though they had they had nothing to do with what the previous owner did with the money that came from the insurance company, okay? So make sure that you're getting the information about homeowners insurance, whether or not claims have been filed, and if they use the money to make the repairs. The next document is the Community Association Disclosure Exhibit. This document you're going to want to include. This document if your client's home is located in a community that has a homeowners association. If you forget to include this document and there are fees and things that are owed, guess who they're going to look to pay them? Your client. And guess who your client is going to look to pay them? You. So make sure that you include this community association disclosure document. Make sure that your client, you never fill this client, this or the other disclosure statement, never fill it out for the client. Make sure that they are filling it out. Again, a lot of agents don't even look at it. It's like, it's the seller's responsibility to fill it out. Yes, it's the seller's responsibility to fill it out, but if they miss something and they end up having to pay thousands for that error, guess who they're going to look to pay it? Or guess who's not going to get any referrals in the future? You. So look over the document, make sure that they filled it out, make sure that they filled it out completely. Special assessments, if there are any special assessments, make sure that they disclose it, and make sure to check with the homeowners association to see if they're going to want that special assessment paid in full in closing. I had a real life transaction to where we got to the closing table. We were aware of the special assessment, but we were not aware that the HOA, my client was on a payment plan, a monthly payment plan for the assessment. But we did not know that on conveyance, when we sold it, they wanted the buyer to pay that assessment in full, or they wanted money in full. Long story short, they didn't care where it came from. They wanted it in full. Okay. Moving right along. And again, if any of these numbers are missing, I'm going to read it right here. What does it say? 1 second. I'm looking for where it says this here. Somewhere in the document, it says that if the seller either exhibits, what's your question, Wanda? You're trying to help me out? It says here that if the seller omits anything or forgets anything, that they're going to be responsible for paying the difference. So if there is a transfer fee, initiation fee that the buyer has to pay, it says buyer shall pay blank. If this is left blank, your seller may be on the hook for paying it. Okay. Make sure that your seller indicate what all is included with that. If there's any current litigation, your seller needs to indicate that. I'm currently working with a listing where the HOA is in litigation because one of the homeowners fell and she was a hoarder and the emergency services people could not get to her. And that's somehow the HOA's fault. So there's a lawsuit. And because there's a lawsuit going on, I have to check this, or not I, the client has to check this, and we've got to deal with it. The issues that you're going to run into if there are any current lawsuits or litigations with the homeowners association, you're going to have to deal with lending. The buyer's lender may not give them a loan if the homeowners association is currently in a particular type of lawsuit. Okay, because they may say, okay, well, if the HOA loses this lawsuit, their reserves may be deplenished. The money that they have to take care of the community, that money could be deplenished in this lawsuit. And so we don't want to loan money for anyone to purchase this unit, because if the HOA is not able to maintain the property, meaning like the roof, for example, because many HOAs and condos, for example, cover the roof. If they're not able to replace the roof, my client may foreclose because they may have to move out of the property. Does that make sense? So make sure that you're reading over this. And then again, all of these subsequent paragraphs are just explaining what's on the first one. You're going to give these to your client at the time of listing, so there won't be a buyer's signature on there. And that's okay. When you get these documents signed, my recommendation is that you go ahead and upload those into the multiple listing service. There's a question in the chat and says, for the exhibits, does that always need to be filled out? How does that need to be annotated? Which part? I'm sorry, Wanda.
Regarding the exhibits, like I was just doing a contract, and it was my first one. So my thing was I didn't even know that I needed to fill out the exhibits, but now I know that they need to be alphabetical.
Yes.
But does it matter if you do like A, B, C, or is it however you put it in, and then that's what you type, where that space is for the exhibit?
Okay, got it.
That's my
So,
question. Okay, thank
thank
you.
you so much. So Wanda is asking, the question is with regards to how exhibits are labeled. So she's asking, does it matter the order that they go in? And she shared that she just learned that exhibits are lettered. So yes, exhibits are lettered and amendments are numbered. And no, it does not matter the order in which they go in, as long as you know, your page where you indicate the exhibits, as long as they match. Okay. So your A here should be on your purchase and sale agreement. And for those of you who haven't seen this, I'll show you when we get there. But your A on here should correspond and be the same as your A on your purchase and sale agreement. So your A should be the community association disclosure. How I do mine, I'll show you all how I do mine when I get there. Okay, does that answer your question, Wanda?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next up, lead-based paint. Again, if the home was built prior to 1978, you're going to want to go ahead and get this document taken care of at the time of listing. Once you get all of your disclosure statements taken care of, I recommend that you upload them into the multiple listing service if you are the listing agent. That way, the buyer's agents and buyer's brokers can pull those documents before or after they make an offer. They already have access. If you don't upload them to MLS, every single time someone is showing or getting ready to write an offer, they're going to ask you to send them the documents. And if you have them uploaded, you don't have to worry about sending those documents manually. You can just say, hey, they're already on MLS. You can download them there. All right. Affiliate business disclosures, every single client has to sign one of these. This is just the broker disclosing to the client that we have business relationships with companies and that there is a monetary agreement between them. And it's also letting them know that they are not required to use any of our vendors. Lastly, in terms of required disclosures for every client, we have the identity theft and wire fraud awareness and prevention notice. This document is here so that your clients know that, you know, they need to know that, one, you're never going to provide them with wiring instructions. And it's letting them know that we aren't liable for any issues with them wiring their funds to the wrong party. They must verify the instructions by telephone with the closing attorney's office. So as it pertains to how your client sends and receives money by wire, you want to refer them to the closing attorney, okay? This is in place because anyone know why we have this document? Don't have to answer. I'm like, why do we have this document? Okay.
Money.
What were you saying, Goldie?
Said we have it in place to protect our money.
We have it in place to protect our money. We have it in place to protect our clients' money. And we have it in place to CYA cover our butts, okay? So what had happened or what happens is there are people that are scammers and hackers and things of that nature. They hack into the email accounts of realtors, attorneys, insurance companies, title companies. They hack into our email accounts and they follow along while we're working our transactions. They know when the closing dates are, they know information about our transaction, and right before closing, These individuals are sending emails or contacting your client to ask them to wire their funds for closing. And they're not related to the transaction. They are scammers and hackers. So your client, of course, they have their phishing emails. So they look like they're coming from the attorney. It looks like it's coming from you, but it's actually not. And it's telling your client to wire their funds somewhere that is actually more than likely an offshore account. So it's never happened to my client, but while I was at QUAP, there was an agent who had a client who received one of these phishing emails, and they sent $400,000 to the wrong account. $400,000 on closing day. Their life savings. They've got the U-Haul and the moving truck packed. They think they're closing. And that money went to an offshore account to scammers, and that money is as good as gone. They did not get to close. Of course, when things like that happen, guess who they go to sue? The realtors, the brokers, the attorneys. So if you are the agent and you send someone instructions to where they have to send their wire, you're like, oh, I know how this law firm does their wire. So send it here, and it goes to the wrong place and the client loses their money, then you're going to be in trouble, and that document takes care of that. So never, ever, 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 ever send a client wiring instructions. They need to contact the closing attorney by phone. They don't need to contact the closing attorney using any phone number that was emailed to them. They can do a Google search for the attorney's office and get the phone number there. But they need to also make sure that they're calling the right attorney's office, because these people get very creative with how they scam people. So, any questions on that? All right, cool beans.